Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Black Nerds Matter. Today's guest is a powerhouse in biological oceanography and a fierce advocate for diversity in STEM. Dr. Kailani Acosta is the science program associate at OceanX, where she helps push the boundaries of ocean exploration. She earned her Ph.D. from Columbia University in 2024, conducting research at Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory on nutrient dynamics and phytoplankton community shifts in the Gulf of Mexico. Before that, she got her bachelor's in science and environmental science from Brown University. But her impact doesn't stop at science. She founded the Seminar Diversity Initiative at Columbia to increase representation in research spaces, co-chaired the Lamont DEI task force, and even published best practices for building inclusive STEM communities. On top of that, she curated a science art exhibition of Bridging the Gulf, connecting ancient phytoplankton, the Black Belt's fertile soil, and deep ties between environment, race, and culture. Let's get into it with Dr. Acosta, explore the intersections of ocean, science, equity, and storytelling. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm super excited to talk to you and to see you again. It's been a while,
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm super excited for this conversation.
me too. You're one of the first people. You're one of the people I've wanted to have on this for a while, especially after our interactions this summer. It was so much fun being on OceanX. I mean, you've seen before. I had Jalen on here from OceanX as well, and
Yeah.
it's just yeah, it's awesome seeing people from that because it was such a fun and fulfilling experience.
Yeah, I love to see the continued bond. I mean, our Young Explorers program has been going on for a little while now, but really changing how we're building these cohorts and making them a lot more international and making sure that we have those continued bonds is super important. So yeah, I really love to see that.
Okay, so I talked a bit about Brown University and different DI efforts you've done, especially phytoplankton. I know you're super big into that. I mean, we called you Dr. K for a reason. You love the the little things in the ocean. But can you share pivotal moments or experiences that led you to pursue a career in marine science and biological oceanography?
Yeah. So when I was in undergrad, I studied environmental science at Brown, and Brown is known for being very open curriculum. There aren't that many things that you have to do, which is really nice when you don't really know what you want to do. I knew that I broadly liked science and I wanted to understand big scientific questions, but didn't really know how to specialize like all of that energy and didn't want to be like locked into a box. So I just did a little bit of everything. I worked on land, I worked in swamps, I worked in marshes, I worked at sea. I did lots of different things to try to understand what kinds of questions I liked to try to answer and what things made me excited. And all of that kind of led to the ocean. There were just so many questions that we we continue to not have answers to, and some of the main questions that you can ask about why things happen are some of the main questions that we don't have answers to in the ocean. So there are consistent questions that we need to understand. So the first time that I really realized that like this is what I need to do was when I was studying abroad my junior year. I was in Madagascar on an island north in the northern part of Madagascar called Nusi Bay. And I was living with a researcher there. And she's amazing. Her name is Giselle. She was like 60 something, like 4 foot something, and just like the most amazing woman. She would go diving every day. She, had been diving with whale sharks and had been creating artificial reefs. And she was just like this powerhouse of a person. And I lived with her for 3 months. And every day we'd wake up looking at the ocean through the like wide slats in the floor because her house was on stilts, like right over the water, and all of the fishermen would keep their boats under the house. So we'd wake up when the tide came in and when all the fishermen decided to go out. So it was this like really like primal connection to the tides and to where we get our food from and how we connect to the ocean, and seeing it like underneath your feet in that really like evocative way was one of the things that was like, this is like something that means much more to me than just a job. This is just like, this is what I should do. So yeah, that's kind of like what changed my mind and made me want to pursue the ocean as a place for science and education and all the things.
Wow. I'm sure that's like first of many stops for you in marine science, like exotic locations and that. Can you share some of your favorite places you've been to, whether it's with OceanX or even with Brown that you've gotten to study at and just see the local fauna and been amazed by it?
Yeah, I mean, I have been really fortunate to be able to travel a ton. So I'm very good at 10-hour flights nowadays, which is it's a real skill being able to just like sleep. But I think that some of my favorite places in the world are the islands in Thailand. I really, really love. I haven't been diving over there, but just like the karst islands, like limestone. You've definitely seen pictures of those with like they're really tall vegetation on top, and they're all like limestone that's being degraded over time. It's so beautiful, and the waters are amazing. I really love Madagascar. The Indian Ocean is my favorite ocean by far. I was just in the Maldives and in Comoros, and I just love being on tiny islands that are really deeply connected to the ocean. So I would say that all of the Indian Ocean islands are probably my favorite places that I've been thus far. But Madagascar, Comoros, and Maldives are pretty high up there.
That's so cool. I mean, just hearing about where you're able to travel and doing all this, would you like to explain a bit about your position at OceanX and how what you guys are doing and especially your role in it? Because I mean, I know it, but I want other people to know just because it's
Yeah.
so cool, all the stuff you do and what you guys are able to accomplish.
Yeah, so I am a science program associate at OceanX. So we are a science and media company. We're a nonprofit, and we seek to broaden everyone's access to the ocean. We want to bring the world to the ocean, bring the ocean to the world. And in the past, we've done it mostly through media. So our submarines, or one of them, filmed all of Blue Planet 2. So, we have a celebrity on the ship, and we're really trying to broaden out the science work that we do all over the world, working with local scientists. So, I work on both the science and education teams. So, on the science front, we are working with scientists to try to make the best use of the vessel when we are traveling all over the world. Currently, the ship is going through the Mozambique Channel, going south of Madagascar right now, and they're studying seamounts there. So we're working with scientists from, I think, 10 different African countries and trying to understand the biodiversity of the region and map a lot of the gaps. The bathymetry of the ocean, only 26% of the seafloor has been mapped in high resolution, and we are contributing to increasing that. So in this region where we're going right now, south of Madagascar, we're going to a seamount that no one even knows where the top of it is because it hasn't been mapped in super high resolution. So all of these efforts are going towards larger scale UN decade efforts such as Seabed 2030, protecting 30% of the ocean by 2030. So on my science side, we're just trying to increase the amount of science that we can do all over the world, working with local people. And I'm also a biological oceanographer. I'm really interested in collecting data on nutrients and phytoplankton and understanding the basis of marine ecosystems to try to understand how they're changing from coastal areas to offshore areas. So, luckily, we get to go to so many different places all the time. So, it's a lot of data collection opportunities. In addition, I work on the education team as well. I'm kind of the science education person, and I run a lot of the Young Explorers programs and now the new Early Career Explorers program. So the Young Explorers are for students ages 18 to 24 that are interested in either marine science or media or engineering or being on ships or any of that stuff and want to be an immersive experience on ship going on one of our transit legs. So that's where I had the pleasure to meet Diedrich. And it's been a really exciting and rewarding experience because when you work in oceans and climate, it can be really depressing sometimes. but it's really great to be able to teach people that are immediately getting the benefit of what they're learning. They're learning about the things around them, they're understanding why we're doing what we're doing, and it's super impactful.
So are you able to make your own questions when you guys are working? Are you just given kind of a project to work on or whatever? Or do you ever get to put your own spin when it comes to things? Like I know in Brown, you're able to pick what you want to do, and I know in your PhD, you get to pick what you want to do. How does that work within OceanX?
Yeah, it's kind of both. So we are, of course, trying to make sure that the scientists that we're working with are able to answer their own questions. We want to make sure that we're just giving them a platform and expanding their opportunities to do research in their own waters. We don't necessarily want to come in and say, we're going to do this, this, and this when we have never been to this place before and don't know anything beyond the like landscape analysis that we do of like reading papers on this kind of environment and what's happened in the past. So that is understanding what the local scientists want is a big part of it, and helping to build the research project around that is a huge part of it. But we also have our own science at OceanX that we are trying to do everywhere. So that's a bit different than my PhD work, for example, where I did research for many years on one place. Now we go everywhere and collect water everywhere. So it's different, like large scale longitudinal studies that can help us understand the global ocean. We collect data on nutrients, on phytoplankton, on aerosols, and on bacteria plankton throughout the water column everywhere we go. So we can eventually do a long term comparative study to understand how the ocean is changing with temperature changes, for example, and look at all of these different components of it. So those are always happening in the background. And we hope to also make it part of the foreground soon, but it's something that we're just spinning up now. And with education, it's been really great because I can just say, I can teach a class on ocean justice, I can teach a class on biological oceanography, principles of oceanography, basically anything oceanography, I can do that. And so then I just put together a class and then teach what I want to teach. What I think that people would get the most from, especially being out in the middle of the ocean. Like there are certain things that they want to learn, and there are others that are more like experiential. You don't want to like keep everyone in a classroom all day. So yeah, it's a bit of both.
That's great. We've done a bunch of hard science talk already. I'm really glad that you share that. I was just really into science. I was like, I wanted to pick
Yeah,
your brain about what you guys are doing, all that kind of stuff, because I'm not doing science like right now, but I just wanted to hear some about it. I'm like, I feel like I'm back in school. This is really nice. But
you have to balance
I
it.
was yeah, yeah, absolutely. But I want to hear more about you. So where'd you grow up? What started getting you into science? And I want to know even things like what's family life like, and how did your family react to you being across the world all the time?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm from Long Island, New York. I grew up on the South Shore of Long Island. It is really close to the ocean. I could run to the water. I spent a lot of time on the coast, and all of my family is from Puerto Rico. So I grew up going back there often. My mom is from San Juan, so we'd always go back to like see her sisters and just get away from the winter. So the ocean and like being near the coast has been something that is super prevalent in my entire life. And, I also didn't have a choice in becoming the person I am because my name means heavenly ocean in Hawaiian, Kailani, and my last name means Acosta, means of the coast in Spanish. So, yeah, it's it it was preordained, but my family are like not necessarily scientists. My dad was pre med at one time, and then he like became a computer IT engineer. So he does a lot of like installations of TVs and electrical stuff. And my mom is a social worker. So it wasn't necessarily like known that I was going to be a scientist, but there were signs. I am the kind of person that just always asks why. I want to know like why things work the way they do, how things are the way they are. And being by the ocean was one of the places that I just always was. And I asked many questions about it, and not a lot of people could answer them. Um, yeah, it just became the biggest question mark for me. And it was one of the places that was really central in my life. It's it became my life then. Yeah. My family also is like super excited about everything I do. I've always been like an environmentally minded person. Was in like all of the like green clubs and all of that stuff. So it was no surprise that I became like an environmental scientist at first and then oceanographer. But I think that I'm quite persuasive because my brother has now started his PhD in the same exact program that I just finished in biological oceanography at Columbia, and he also studies phytoplankton. So I've been talking about how interesting and exciting and impactful this work is, and somebody listened. So yeah, it's great. My whole family is like very on board with everything, and yeah, I invite everyone to come meet me at any of the port stops before or after everywhere I go. Nobody really takes me up on it because I'm like, you want to spend 2 days in the Maldives with me before I get on the ship? And yeah, it's not like the easiest thing to do, but yeah, one of these days we'll plan it out so that they can meet me somewhere. But yeah, they're all travelers too, so they will once it like actually makes sense to do it. I think when we're getting a little bit closer to the US with the ship, it'll be easier than flying halfway across the world for like 2 days. Yeah.
So how do you balance work and life? I mean, being gone so long, like what's your life like when you get home? I mean, I've even just gone
Yeah.
on small trips to even just doing OceanX and coming back, and I was only gone for like a week or so. But it's just how many things I had to catch up on when I got home.
Hmm.
I can't imagine doing that all year. How often are you on the ship, and how often do you come back and have to deal with those things?
Yeah, so recently it's been a pretty hectic schedule. I've been on the ship for a few weeks to a month and then home for a month to a month and a half. And then I'm going back on the ship for another like 6 weeks and then I'll be home again for another 6 weeks and then back on the ship for another 6 weeks. So it's been very on and off, which is exciting but also exhausting. It's a lot to have to plan for. Like I have my next like 6 months planned out in terms of like when can I go to the dentist, who's going to take my dog, when do I need to pause my gym membership. So yeah, I mean, as a type A person, I love this kind of planning. Give me a spreadsheet, I'll do it. Like it's amazing. But yeah, having to account for all of this stuff is definitely not for everyone, and being away from family and friends and home, my own bed for so long is definitely tough, but you really get accustomed to being like, okay, I'm at work now. I'm going to just be at work while I'm here. I'm going to like do it to the best of my ability while I'm here because I mean, I usually see it as you do like when you're on a science research cruise. Like it is such a privilege to be able to be out in the middle of the ocean doing all of these incredible things that not many people see, not many people do, and it's a hard thing to do. So, like you have to really try to make the most of every moment that you're out there. And then you can rest when you get home. I don't think it's necessarily the healthiest mindset always, but you know, you can always take a day to just like rest if you're really, dead. But that's how I typically see it when I'm out at sea. And then when I'm home, I really try to take it easier and make time for rest, make time for seeing my friends, for hanging out with my dogs, for, going on dates with my boyfriend, like, seeing family and things. Really trying to do balance, but like on the monthly scale, not really like daily. So that's definitely something that I'm working on the weekly and daily scale. I need to build in like little moments of balance. But it's all a process. It's all a process.
Yeah, I'm sure. I can't imagine anyone that spends that much time away with family, friends. I mean, because everyone has someone they care about that they want to see, but having to spend that time and have to just plan it out. I mean, even for me,
Hmm.
like doing little internships in the summertime, my mom's like, "I haven't seen you in like 3 summers. Like, this is like weird. I didn't
Hmm.
expect you to be gone from the house this early." And I'm like, "Well, I just don't know how to plan time outside of that because like sometimes you don't know until that point,
Yeah.
but it's nice that you have it to where it's booked out 6 months. It's like, hey, you can see me here, you can see me there, you can see me there. And
Yeah.
after that, like they have a schedule, and that's good. They at least can see your availability.
Yeah, yeah, it's not always, like, the friendliest thing to do. It's like, "Well, all these weekends I'm booked out, but I can do from, like, 11 to 1 on this day." But, it works out at the end of the day because it's like, this is the only way that I know how to schedule it out and function in this way, so, like, please work with me here, and everyone seems to. So, yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay, so here at Black Nerds Matter, we love talking about people's nerdy activities and what they're interested in. I'm sure there's some type of fun stuff you do when you're home. So tell me, what makes you a nerd, and how does that contribute to your identity as a scientist?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I am so logically minded, to like an extreme that I love seeing the science and seeing the like methodology of everything. So when I'm on the ship, one of the things that I miss most is cooking. You don't get to choose what you're eating, really, and you have to eat on a schedule. And I am not like a morning person. I'm not a breakfast person. I don't like to eat when I like at scheduled times. I'm like a real snacker. I like to make little meals and eat them throughout the day. So being home is amazing. So I can make really good food, like whatever I'm feeling. And I really love the chemistry of it all, like the chemistry of cooking. And I've been obsessed with cooking lately. There are just like, it's like a treasure trove of like chemistry and, logical planning. There's so much planning that goes into cooking. Like if you're making a roast or something, you have to like let it dry out and you have to do a dry rub and then you have to put it in the oven for a set amount of time, then you have to let it rest after. It's amazing. So I've been super super into that, which has been a lot of fun. And just like the history of cooking, and trying to like influence it, by adding different flavors and different like cuisines is just a lot of fun. And it's interesting to just like understand how cooking like has changed over time and is so influenced by the people and places that do it. So everywhere that I go, I try to like eat whatever like their most popular meal is and then try to recreate it when I'm home if I can. Some places are much harder than others. So yeah, I'm going to like do an injustice to most Thai food or Indonesian food. But yeah, I just love learning about the world in so many different ways.
I can't believe you missed cooking on that. That was like the best food I've ever had in my entire life, was being on it. Like
Oh
I
yeah,
just want to eat
yeah,
the
yeah,
ship
yeah.
food and that's it.
Yeah, I'm no shade to ship food. It's amazing. It really is. I just really like to cook. So that's what I miss doing.
Okay, you missed the process of doing
Yes,
it.
I miss the process. Exactly. But yeah, I mean, it's very easy to gain a lot of weight on the ship because the food is really good and there's not a lot of time to work out.
Oh, I bet. I mean, even like being some people in the bridge and saying that, and them telling me that they have like 12-hour shifts where you sleep 12
Mhm.
hours and then like I don't think anyone wants to find time to lift weights when they need to be up for 12 hours straight working.
Yeah, yeah, it's a tough balance to be able to do your job and be awake at the hours that you need to. But, having some sort of routine around doing things on your own time is super helpful for just like your mental health when especially if you have like a really long stretch at sea if you're out there for a few months. It's really helpful for some people to like wake up at 5 a.m., go to the gym for a little bit or like take laps around the ship or do something because it is really easy to just like sit in one place and do one thing or, run around doing a bunch of things and not actually ever think about how you're feeling and how you need to take care of yourself.
It's crazy how you can get into that. I'm trying to think of the word. It's like that state of mind when you're on a ship, or I think even at school or anything like that, when you're just doing the same thing every day. You don't take time to do the little things that you love.
Yeah.
I remember we got to the ship and people were like, "Oh, we love seeing how much you guys love the ship and making us fall in love with it again." I'm like, "Yeah, I feel like with anything, even if you're at the coolest place ever, and I think where you work is the coolest place ever, you could just get kind of, I guess, jaded in a sense
Oh,
and
yeah.
just forget about, oh, I'm actually like, you forget about all the little things that make it there. Like, I'm sure there's times you're out there where it's like a regular day and you're like, oh, you don't even think about I'm in Comoros or any of these other
Yeah.
super cool places, just so normal for you now."
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I really love about having students on board. I mean, it's a lot. I feel like I have 15 children. I'm just like, these are my children now. I gave birth to all of them 5 days ago. And I'm responsible for their health and wealth and everything from here on out. But at the same time, it is like really impactful to just like see how much, first of all, everyone learns. There are people that don't know anything about the ocean, don't know anything about science, and then become scientists in their own right. They change their majors, they become
Wow.
really adept in media, they become documentary people. It's really amazing to see that this kind of experience can change someone's trajectory, because I feel like if I had something like this, it would have changed mine a lot earlier, I think, especially if you're like dabbling in some of the, themes that we touch on in media and science and engineering and stuff. It's a really helpful like thruster towards that, which is really nice because you all are the future. There's only so much that the old white men in academia can do.
Okay, that's a good transition to something else I wanted to ask you. Was talking about the old white man and everything. With that, how have you enjoyed and have you been fulfilled working with different DEI? Because I mean, one thing that was a big deal to talk about on the boat was even colorism and stuff like that. I'd
Hmm.
never heard about anything like that in a academic setting. You see it at home, especially being a black person, but you never talk about it in public like that. How have you contributed to these efforts, and what's been some of your favorite things about it, and things that you wish you could change?
Yeah, I mean, it's really important, and it's something that I'm really cognizant of in incorporating into everything I do. Everything that I do necessarily becomes something that is related to diversity, equity, and inclusion because I make it that way, and because I want to incorporate these ideals into the things that we do. You don't have to be like a HR professional to be like an expert in DEI, and I think that, or to care about it in general. And I think that's something that gets lost in all of the like ways that it's portrayed these days, because even though DE is seen as like really different and separate from science itself, it's really not. And I don't think that these things should be, seen as so far from each other. And they're integrally related. So, one of the reasons that I created this science art exhibition called Bridging the Gulf was to really show how fundamentally intertwined science and phytoplankton and culture and race are, to try to understand that these connections are not something that's like imposed or like human. These connections are more than that. They're like geological, and that's just the way that I think about things. But in short, the Bridging the Gulf exhibition was a science art exhibition that I put together last February in Brooklyn. And it was explaining how ancient phytoplankton, coccolithophores, that existed in the Cretaceous Ocean 100 million years ago, formed this black belt of soil in the south. So they created these chalk belts because their bodies are made of a calcium carbonate, which is chalk. So millions and millions of them just like piled on top of each other, and created these like huge like cliffs of chalk, like the cliffs of Dover in England. And over time it weathered with plants growing, and this whole region became super fertile with like dark fertile soil that was then named the Black Belt. So the Black Belt then became a real haven for farming. So, first, the indigenous people that lived in those regions farmed everything there. And then, when European colonists came over, they promptly removed those people from that region and brought over a lot of enslaved people. So, it's directly tied to the transatlantic slave trade. And this huge conglomeration of farming areas across the Black Belt really influenced race and culture in the South from that point forward. So the reasons that the highest proportions of Black people are in the South, can be directly mapped onto the ancient Cretaceous coastline. If you map populations of Black people, if you put it next to education levels, if you put it next to poverty levels, or basically whatever you make your y-axis, the independent variable will always be the Cretaceous ocean and the coccolithophores that used to live there, which is really amazing and shows this like fundamental connection. And I don't think that we should understand science without understanding people, and especially the people that are adversely impacted by lots of the things that we are continuing to do, especially in the South. So, yeah, I hope to do that exhibition again sometime soon once I get a moment to do it when I'm on land. So, yeah, we'll see. Or it could be at sea, maybe. I don't know.
I love seeing your enthusiasm for this, even the hand signals and everything. I can just tell you're used to doing this in person, showing people what's going on. And like, I loved your presentations when we were on the boat. So I'm kind of being brought back to that moment now. Thank you so much for sharing that. I was wondering, what's the impact you've seen of your DEI work? Because I know it's really important. And I've even had other guests from New York who talk about how environmentalism isn't seen as a big deal there. I was wondering your thoughts on how you've been able to affect people being interested in science there, and even just your efforts in general in the New York community.
Yeah. So untraditionally, I made one of the chapters of my PhD dissertation on DEI. So I think it was titled something like community composition. It was like something that was akin to like talking about plankton community. So it was like community composition, and impacts of task forces, I think. So I was on the DEI task force at Lamont, where I went to grad school, and it was during 2020 when everything was wild. And, it was also during the time when everyone was like, let's have a task force that shows that we're doing something.
It kind of worked in your
And
favor there, huh?
exactly, yeah. But like they didn't actually want it to create change. They didn't want it to do anything other than be a face of something. So one of my goals was then to make it mean something, and hopefully for other people to be able to do something similar that actually makes change. So I wrote a paper on it. So using one of my chapters of my PhD as a focus on DEI means that you typically write a paper on all of the chapters that you focus on for your dissertation. So I, along with the two other co-chairs of the task force, Gisela Winkler and Benjamin Kiesling, we wrote a paper called Lessons Learned from a DEI task force at Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory. It's called Past as Prologue. And it was
Ooh.
published in the Journal of Geoscience Education. And it really talks about the history of diversity in the geosciences, the fact that it has been unchanged for the last, something like 50 years, and it is consistently the lowest diversity STEM field. And a lot of that is because of this like unchanging frameworks that we use for funding and for thinking about science and math and modeling and all of these things as really like unchangeable and tied to really white ideals, which also doesn't make sense. So yeah, thinking about how students and others have been impacted by this. We have 6 citations now on this paper, which is really amazing. It was published in 2022. And other people in my institution have started making chapters on non-science things, which is super
Nice.
exciting. So chapters on education and chapters on other diversity work, which is super impactful to me because I feel like I'm changing the like definitions of what we see as work and what we think of as publishable as academic, especially in the science world, is something that I have always felt is like super suffocating and untenable as a thing that like everyone kind of thinks of as law. So it feels really nice to have made an impact in that way.
That's wonderful. I mean, I think it's so important when people talk about their experiences and different things that make them who they are, and because everyone gets into science a different way. I mean, my story's not the same as yours, and yours isn't the same as mine, but it's just when you have your identity and you're trying to focus on that as well and incorporating that into what you do, I feel like it can be really hard for a lot of different people. So something I'm wondering is what advice would you give to someone who's struggling with their identity, whether it's being someone who's Black or Hispanic or any other kind of race that's not like that's a minority in science? What would you tell them about trying to help in
Hmm.
DEI perspectives? Like if you had a friend who was doing a podcast on getting people of color into marine science, what would you tell them?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that in the past, the rhetoric around like these issues of like being like a Black scientist and being, a person of color in these spaces that have not historically been made for you is like that you are doing this in spite of who you are. You're doing this and you're exceptional because you are a Black scientist or anything like that. But I think that we really need to reframe this like conversation to be like, you are Black and a scientist. You're bringing yourself to this scientist, and that's what makes science better. You don't need to remove who you are from what you're doing in order to make it palatable. And I think that it makes it better when you bring your whole person, your whole background, everything that you're interested in to it, because not I mean, we're not robots. That's not the only thing that we think of. I don't only think of phytoplankton and like I can't communicate to anybody else other than plankton. I mean, there are
You
some
sure?
people that I know it's a question for some, but I'm trying not to. Like we have to really bring our whole selves. If it's like being super nerdy about things and like not wanting to talk to people, that's fine too. But I think that um, the definition of like who you are is often your work. But I don't think that it needs to be that way. And I also don't think that the definition of a job needs to be, without the human aspect. Because at the end of the day, we are the ones that are impacted by the science that is being done. We're the ones that have to do the things and create the experiments and write the papers. And if you're not putting yourself into it, you're just removing all of the like goodness that science could have. Otherwise, it's just like numbers. It's not human.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think it's really important to have that distinction of who you are and then what you're doing as well, and then they can work together, but it's not always the same thing because I think people can very much tie those things together. Like for instance, with me in science, I've always felt like I don't want to just be the best Black researcher. I want to be the
Hmm.
best researcher, period, for whatever. Like I don't want to feel like an anomaly, and so I don't
Yeah.
treat myself
Yeah.
like an anomaly. Like, oh, I'm trying to think of the word. Like this isn't the standard. Like this should be the
Yeah.
standard that
Exactly.
someone from a different way of life is doing these things. You know what I mean? Because when
Right.
it's a white person from the US or Europe, it's no big deal. Like I want it to be no difference between me being a scientist or a Black person from Africa or from the
Hmm.
Caribbean or anything like that. Like I want that to just be what the standard is. So there's times that I struggle with, yeah, like I want to do this. I really want this to be part of my identity and show like, yeah, Black people are really doing this versus there's times where I'm like, I don't want to just make, oh, Black people to be the exception of what's going on. I want us to feel like we are part of the mean, like part of the norm for this kind of stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean it's also a hard balance to like understand what even how you should portray yourself too, because at the end of the day, like it is important to form groups too. Like Black Nerds Matter is so important to like bring people together around a shared cause. Black and marine science, like there are so many incredible organizations that are being formed around this like Black in science like rhetoric, which is amazing. But I also don't want everyone that is not part of these groups to be like, oh, well, that's just a thing that they do. And it just becomes this like siloed thing. I mean, in science, lots of things are siloed. But then DEI becomes siloed in lots of ways, and caring about other people becomes siloed. So I think that having any kinds of like themes of diversity and equity and inclusion in everything that we do is what makes the most sense for me in what I do. Because now that I am not in grad school anymore and I have a little bit more flexibility in how I can do things and what I do, I'm like, okay, this is a part of everything. And I want everyone to know that from the start, from the beginning, that it's not going to be like a separate conversation that we're going to have at the end to like check off a box. This is going to be a part of principles of oceanography because it is one. So, yeah.
I have a really important question for you because it's something that I've actually been talking to a couple of my friends about in different organizations that I've been working with. And it's about with trying to balance or look at relations between two different groups. Like I'm thinking in particular, like black and white people when it comes to marine science. Like, for instance, I had a situation that happened where a black scientist friend of mine was saying that, yeah, I feel like they're really leaving us off of this panel or this board for whatever's going on. And there's times where I'm not sure if it's intentional, like, oh, they're trying to leave black people out, or if they just don't know about us existing in these things. And those are the kind of things that are really hard for me because I grew up in a place where I had a lot of white friends. Like I had a redneck friend in Pennsylvania that was like one of my best friends. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
there's times when I see people and people are like, oh, they're racist. They're kind of going against us, like it's against the black people. When there's times I'm like, I don't think it's always like that. Sometimes people just don't know, and we have to educate them. I think it's really hard because I don't want
Mm-hmm.
to feel like I'm, what's the word, like devaluing what someone's saying and
Yeah.
being like, oh,
Yeah.
and going against them, like kind of going against the grain. But I also want to realize that they're people too, and sometimes people just don't know about other people existing and may just make that mistake.
Yeah. It's a hard one because it's probably a combination of things. But, at this point there are so many amazing like high profile organizations focused on non-white people that it seems like you have to be kind of trying not to know or really like really living in your own world to not know about some of these organizations because sometimes people really don't care to do any research. Like
Hmm.
some people just will be like, okay, I know these three people. These are the people that should be on the panel and won't think about anything else. Whereas, there are people that would be like, well, we should have these three people because they are, what I think of as a scientist. So, it really depends. And I think that with all of these kinds of things that happen, I think that you can question like their what they want as their outcome. You can ask like, did you mean to not have anyone of
Hmm.
color on this panel, or is there a reason? I think that not to make uh, not to make waves to change anything is not always the right way of going about things. I think, you can just be like, well, wouldn't this person be better if we're talking about, how to change science? Having a young person, number one, number two, a
Hmm.
person of color that's actually had to go through things to be in this place and has something to talk about. I think that questioning things and making your opinion heard is super necessary in all forms, especially in academia, because you never really know what someone's intentions are about the way that they're doing things. But I think that continuing to raise the questions and amplify people that need to be amplified is so necessary because no matter what their intentions are, their outcomes are typically the same, where they'll
Hmm.
just have the same kinds of people doing the same things. And it doesn't really matter if their intentions were good or bad because the outcomes are the same. So, yeah. Just keep fighting the good fight. That's all there is to say. Just
No,
keep pushing.
I really appreciate that. It's for me, I just really don't want to be walking around like a chip on my shoulder when it comes
Yeah,
to that
yeah.
things. Just because I feel like sometimes when you go out there expecting people to, oh, they're not looking for black people, they don't want me to be
Mhm.
a part of this, then you go into something kind of angry about it and
Yeah.
without even giving them a chance. And that's the whole, and I feel like it's just such a way, and everyone deals with it in different ways. But I just wanted you to talk about it since you're seeing all the DEI work you've done because I want to be able to work with everyone on all types of things, but I don't want someone to think because I only do Black Nerds Matter. I have no interest in someone else, like a Hispanic person, Asian person,
Yeah,
or,
for sure.
one of any kind of other kind of nationality and what they do. Because I do want to know, but this is just something that really bleeds, that really goes deep into who I am as a person and as a scientist.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's super important. I think asking those questions of people makes them think about those questions too, even if it's not something that they're trying to, if they're trying to do, something and are not worried about who's there, you have to make them think about it. When I was doing the seminar diversity initiative at Columbia, basically I was just trying to diversify the people that we had in our seminars. We had divisional seminars, and I was on the committee for like 6 months, and we had just old white people. That's it for 6 months. And we had one speaker a week. And I was like, there's just something wrong here. Like, there's no way that there aren't any Black scientists that can talk about plankton or nutrients or the ocean in general. And it's just because they weren't trying. And, I implemented this seminar diversity initiative, but implemented, I was just like, well, we have to make sure that we have at least 5 people of color on our list every year. And, everyone would come back to me with their list of like everyone that they were going to have. And they were like, is it good for your thing? Like, does this make you happy? I'm just like, this is not about me. This should,
No.
like, I'm trying to change the way that you are doing your work because I want you to think about it, not me. So, I mean, I'm not sure exactly how to change the hearts and minds of everyone, but you can at least force them to think about some questions sometimes. And hopefully that can change more. But yeah, it's hard.
I think it's so hard. And even people I've met, they're like, yeah, I don't want to other white people or
Hmm.
Hispanic people or whatever, but I want to make sure that our people definitely have a place where it's just us. And I think that's such a hard thing to
Yeah.
grapple with. I mean, like for instance, with my show, like I'll interview other people. Like if someone's like, oh, I don't want Hispanic people on Black Nerds Matter or Asian people on Black Nerds Matter. I'm like, well, it doesn't matter because this is my show. But
Yeah.
with other people's stuff, it's very much I really just for me, I don't want to other people because I know how that
Hmm.
feels. I don't want other people to feel that way, but I really want us, like our people, to have something that's just for them as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it makes so much sense. And it's like, it's so special to have something like this that is like so catered to a really specific audience. And when you're part of that special group, you're like, oh my gosh, this is for me. This is amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay, so I have a few. Oh, I have one more question. I was wanting to ask. How was your early career liaison thing with the U.S. National Committee for UN Ocean Decade? How did that go?
Yeah, so I am currently on my second year of 2 years being the early career liaison for the US National Committee for the Ocean Decade. So it means that I work with the Ocean Studies Board, and we at the national academies, and we talk about like what are the US's main objectives for the UN Ocean Decade. There are lots of really amazing projects and things that are happening with the Ocean Decade, but it's hard to get everyone on the same page about what should be done, what kinds of like reports are needed. So this group really puts together any of the additional resources that US scientists or industry or anything need to know in like whatever new like directions there are, such as like marine carbon capture. So there are lots of things that we can bring experts together on to provide some more background for scientists.
I've heard of some of different things going on with UN Ocean Decade, and especially with like I think they had a conference last year in Spain. All these
Yeah.
different things going on. So it's really cool to see someone that looks like me in like working with these organizations and helping them to make good decisions about what's best for the world, but not like every part of the world, not just like white America or white Europe or
Yeah.
any of that stuff, like for us as well, because I think that's such a big thing. Like someone at some point was talking about marine science and was saying that climate change is a world problem. Like we need everyone
Hmm.
from every part of the world, not just 4 or 5 white dudes from Chicago or whatever. She said something like that.
Yeah.
And that was one of the coolest things that I had ever heard. It really made me think about it because like, yeah, like only somebody who's from an area in Africa or in Asia or whatever would know how that area is specifically being affected. Like scientists can come in later on and and do research, whatever. But those people, like, for instance, I was working in French Polynesia. Those people in French Polynesia know so much more about
Mhm.
what's going on with their water than I do. They
Yeah.
might not know the figures or the graphs and all that stuff that I do, but they know it better because they've lived that experience.
Yeah, I mean, and that speaks to the importance of indigenous and generational knowledge and how fundamental that should be to like our ideals of science in general. You know, a lot of times, especially when you're working in the global south, people will be like, "Oh, it's like so undiscovered. There's like so unmapped. There are still like so many things we don't know." You're talking about like maybe we don't know because there aren't that many published papers on it. But if you talk to the people that have lived in these regions for generations and have been studying their own environments, they know. They have all sorts of working knowledges about everything and how to use it and what it means and how it's changing. So, I mean, that really speaks to the importance of co creating knowledge, to working with local scientists when you're doing research anywhere, and especially when there are all these like large global shifts to do more research and understand everywhere and everything and map the whole ocean. It's not something that can be led by one or two groups because then it won't be done well and it won't be done to the extent that it needs to be. So, working with the people that actually understand these environments is so important and so necessary if we are going to push these like large global objectives.
Sweet. Thank you so much for that. All right, I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
This one's really important too. Okay. I need you to be super serious about this one.
Okay. All right.
What are your five favorite dishes that you've made after spending time on OceanX? What are some of the best ones?
Okay. This is serious. So I made a roast turkey for Thanksgiving and I was super obsessive about it, but it was amazing. So that's number one. Number two, I made a really, really beautiful fruit tart with fresh berries. It's great. Number three, I made a chicken pot pie. So good. I typically don't make like real white people food like that. So I was very excited about it. And then I learned how to make my mom's recipe for arroz con gandules, which is amazing. It's like yellow rice with pigeon peas. It's incredible, and it's still not as good as my mom's, but it's passable. Like I gave it to people, and I wasn't embarrassed. So that was really good. And then I think I've perfected my snickerdoodle recipe. That's number five. Yeah,
Ooh, snickerdoodles.
so good, so good.
Yeah, don't be talking bad about pot pie. That's like my dad's favorite food. When he listens to this episode, he's gonna be super
I'm
offended.
sorry, I've never made one before, and the only recipes I could find were like it's like this woman's life story. She's like, "When I was 7, my grandmother made me a pot pie." Yeah, but it's amazing, and I had no idea. So my eyes have been opened.
All right, thank you so much for being on our show. Everyone, this was Dr. Kailani Acosta. We love her. She's the best. So thank you all so much for listening. To support the channel, you can follow our Instagram page, Black Nerds Matter, subscribe on YouTube, and buy some of our shirts. We're getting some new colors coming in soon, so we can be excited to see people rocking those and sending me pictures. Some of you guys have already sent orders in. I'm really thankful for it. So
I'm gonna
yeah,
get a shirt.
stay tuned. Okay, so yeah, I'll send you the one after this. But yeah, so stay tuned, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, and Black Nerds Matter is out.